All right, everybody, welcome back to another live stream. How's everybody doing? We got Perry in here, Alvin, Crispin, Jay, Infinity Football TV, Nima, Sam Inhen, Dean from north of Ireland. What's up, you guys? Welcome, welcome. Happy to have you here with me. We've got some stuff to talk about, as we usually do here. Spend plenty of time each week going through the markets and talking about setups, ideas, and kind of what's going on. Today we got some bullishness on the euro. We've got some interesting stuff across the board here. So let me just remind, before we get into today's live stream, let me just say, if you're watching this back at a later time and you want to catch these live with me, we go Monday through Friday at 9 a.m. U.S. Eastern. So tune into the streams at that time, or you can watch them back later if you're busy at this time usually. But either ways, these are going to be free. I do them Monday through Friday just to give you guys my thoughts, as well as just to do my own analysis, honestly. Like I get a lot of this. I get a lot of value out of this too, because it just gives me a chance to just go through everything, explain my own thoughts to you guys and to myself, and hopefully just to sort of bring together a little community here on YouTube of people that are like-minded, down-to-earth traders our great community that we've got so far. So good morning, everybody. Hi, Phil, Akil, Osidex, Tyrell, XX Nagu. Fantastic. What's up, you guys? All right, so we've got some stuff to talk about. So today, it seems like our lead currencies in the news are actually going to be arguably the euro. Everything seems to be kind of weak today, and then also the Swiss franc and the yen. So we're seeing a little shift here today on a Tuesday. We're seeing a little bit of a shift into some of the risk-off currencies, or some of the more arguably stable economies that are sort of more safe haven. I would actually be interested in taking a look at gold in just a moment, so stay tuned with me. We're going to get into stuff. I want to invite you guys, if you're just tuning in with me, grab your cup of coffee, grab your whatever you're drinking or whatever you're doing, and sit back and relax, hang out with me for a little bit, and let's talk markets, and you guys can just see my thoughts on this stuff. So welcome, hello, everybody, and thank you guys to the moderators especially for being here and helping out. So we appreciate and love our moderators. They help keep everything running here and just keep the chat clean. Yeah, please no self-promotion or anything like that. We're here to learn, we're here to talk, and we're here to discuss trading only. All right, so let's talk about the yen. So the yen seems to be our top currency for today. People seem to be moving into the yen. I would like to take a look at why that is, because I'm not quite sure what the news is. That's what we're doing here. We're going to go through stuff. We also see a move into the euro, at least for the time being, especially against some of these more risk-on currencies, such as the CAD, New Zealand, and the Aussie and pound. So the pound seems to be the biggest loser today. Pound really pulling back. So I say we start out by taking a look at some of these pound pairs. Maybe pound yen is probably pulling back today. So let's go jump into it, you guys, and see what we've got. Hey, do me a favor as we get started, make sure to smash that like button down below. It does support the channel a lot, and it means a lot just to help share this message with more traders out there who may be looking for more realistic trading content. And that's what I hopefully give here on this channel to you guys. All right, so pound yen. A little bit of a spike in volatility here. You can see, let's look at the daily chart. You can actually see what's going on. So we've been on sort of a strong run here to the upside on the pound yen. And even though we are seeing a strong move into the yen today, you can still see it's almost just a drop in the bucket compared to this massive uptrend. The pound, since the beginning of 2021, is currently sitting at a rough gain of somewhere around 1,100 to 1,200 pips. That's an impressive move, we have to admit, right? So now the question becomes, when we look at the pound yen, as we pull back, is this thing done? Is it time to bail on the trade here? Is it time to give up on this pound yen move? Or is this just reloading the gun before it shoots higher? That's the question that we are all looking at today when we look at something like pound yen pulling back sharply. Now, I will say, you guys, this is the first time that pound yen has had a pretty sharp
decline like this. Notice that in all past scenarios, when we sort of saw the dip, we saw this sort of weak dip. We did see a little, arguably you could have said that there was some strength here. We did get some strength here, but since then we've really seen these very, very weak moves. And I do want to say that I think you're going to have a lot of people who are just going to rush to buy this thing right here. And I'm going to just say, I'm going to personally be on the sidelines. I'm going to be waiting just a little bit to see what happens, because I think it's very possible that pound yen here could do another one of these moves. Let's measure this move together and see what we could perhaps see happen if this were to repeat itself. Okay, so let's grab that move. By the way, you guys, that's a move of about 400 pips there. That's a pretty big move. We're looking at the 4-hour chart, and remember, pound yen is an aggressive moving currency pair. This thing really, really wants, sometimes it really just moves like crazy. So if we were to see the same pullback distance, we would be all the way back down to 149.5. Now, to me, it looks like it's even possible that we could just come down to tag this level again. Now, you have to remember, in the context of what we're looking at a trend that has just been a monster to the upside. And so I'm not going to try and short this thing. I'm not going to try and say, oh yeah, it's going to pull back massively here. That's not my goal with this. My goal with this is to measure more likely where the pullback trade is, if it exists, right? So people ask me all the time, they say, Nick, how do you know if it is a pullback, and how do you know if it is a full-blown reversal? And the truth is, you guys, I don't know. Right? Nobody knows with certainty if a pullback is a pullback or if a pullback is a full-blown reversal. This could totally be the start to some massive drop here on pound yen, right? If we see something like this, we could totally start to see the breakout of this concept. Now, I'm not going to rush to conclusions, though. This is where people, I think, get themselves in trouble with trying to be reversal traders, is they sort of conclude in their head that, oh yeah, this is the topping point, and that there is absolutely no way that we keep going higher. It totally could keep going higher as well. So let's look at some scenarios that we could potentially look for trade setups. Euro's going crazy. Anyone know why? I'm not actually sure why, Shakur, but maybe we'll take a look at the euro pairs in just a moment. I'd be interested to see sort of what's going on in terms of. So we do have, European shares erase COVID-19 losses, which is interesting because, again, sometimes when the European economy or the European currency is going up, that's sort of a sign that, money is flowing there. So RBA holds cash rate at the record low of 0.1. So RBA holding their cash rate, which is sort of an interesting thing for the Australian dollar, a little bit bearish, I think. We'll take a look at that. Eurozone February jobless rate above the forecast. Okay, so here's some important information. We did get some European jobless rates that came out better than expected, which is also sort of an important thing to note. So keep an eye on that. But I think that could be arguably what's going on. Spain unemployment drops in March. That's also sort of bullish. Japanese shares retrace 3-week highs. UK new car sales rise for the first time since August. US futures fall from the records. Okay, yeah. So it just seems like today, it doesn't seem like there's some sort of massive news or anything like that. It just seems like we've got some better than expected numbers out of Europe, which is causing a little bit of euro bullishness. So we will take a look at those in a moment. So if you're here with me live, again, I'm going to go through a bunch of different things today. So just buckle up, stay tuned, and let's keep going. All right, so this is pound yen, Rogan says or asks. This is pound yen. You can always see what currency pair I'm trading or looking at right up here at the top. So we're looking at pound yen. We're looking to see what is going on with this pullback, because we are seeing for the first time in a while some decent pullback. Now, where are some levels to watch? Well, the first one I think is just going to be arguably this previous top, which we are actually testing right now. And I think this is interesting, you guys. Check this out. So when price topped out, when it dropped, where did it go immediately to? It went right back to demand. Supply, supply, supply. When price breaks it, it now is arguably considered a demand level. It's interesting to me that we're getting the pullback and we're seeing some little bit of volatility here, but we stopped right at the level of demand. Now, that doesn't necessarily mean that we're just going to rocket right off of it. What it tells me is that buyers and sellers are both watching this level. So you very well may have had a lot of sellers who said, okay, we're selling off, but we're going right to the first level or line of defense for buyers. So buyers and sellers are probably arguing over this spot right now. If sellers win this area, I think it's very possible that we could make a move back down to this level here. Now, one of the reasons that I just mentioned for those of you guys who are just tuning into the stream is I did this distance here, this previous pullback and what that looked like. And I said, hey, if that happens again, it looks like we could be headed down to right around here, which is pretty close to this zone. We may come back to tag this area. So that's what I mean by, sort of a one-to-one move. If that pullback were to happen again, we'd be looking at a 149.5 sort of pullback area. So keep an eye on that. If you're a longer-term bull, if you're a swing trader to the long side, I like that pullback a lot. I'm not going to rush into buys here, although I am bullish on this currency pair. I'm not going to look to rush into buys, and I'm also not going to rush into sells. So the trade setup for me, if I were to look for a setup on this pair, it would be more of a pullback down to the bottom of this range with sort of a stop underneath structure. I think this gives you a pretty decent risk reward personally if you're a bull on this trend. It's been a fantastic runner here in 2021, and so I'm not ready to bail on this trend by any means. The yen pairs have been some of my best trading opportunities of the year by far, and so that's what I'll be watching for is pullbacks on some of these yen pairs for potential setups that I could get involved with. So that's what I'm looking for on pound yen. Let's take a look at some other yen pairs before we look at the euro. Actually, why don't we look at euro yen just to see what's going on here. Euro yen really topped out, really tested supply here at that 130.5 and sold off dramatically. Look at that. Real sharp bearish candle, arguably even a bearish engulfing candle here on the 4-hour view. For those of you guys who like engulfing candles, check this out. So if you don't know what engulfing candle is, I sort of am not like a guru or anything when it comes to candlestick patterns. It's not like my favorite thing in the world, but the idea is you have candles moving higher, right? And then you have one big candle that sort of engulfs the previous rally, and it's the other direction, right? And the idea here is that buyers look good, and then sellers just come in really heavy at a level. And when this lines up with resistance, it adds even more confluence. So this looks really pretty, honestly, for the euro yen bears out there. If you have a bearish opinion on this, this does look pretty bearish to me. And you might say, well, Nick, this thing's in an uptrend. Why would you want to short it? And I'm not really, this is not really a currency pair that I would trade personally, but it does look to me like we've entered more into a range-bound market than anything else. Yes, we're long-term, we're still sort of holding an uptrend, but what seems to be interesting to me is that we've sort of found resistance here, and it looks like we have some sort of confirmed move. For those of you who are day traders, for those of you who are shorter-term traders, I want to throw one idea out here on the 1-hour chart. So check this out. So we've got this sort of upward trend line that seems to want to be broken today. So we've got this move here. It depends how you draw it. The thing about trend lines that's sort of tricky is you can draw them differently, and then you get sort of different views for different people. But what I like to see is I just like to see, roughly we have this sort of upward trend. We can all kind of see it. We've got those higher lows, higher highs. And then you get this move here. And this is what gets interesting to me. It's like, okay, well, we're seeing the pullback. Can there be some trade setups for the sellers, for the bears here, looking for breakouts, looking for continuations downwards, maybe even towards the bottom of this range? You guys, if that were to move down to that point, you've got still 170 pips on this currency pair. So there's plenty of move there if it were to happen. Now, I'm not saying it absolutely is, and please do your own due diligence. Don't take trades just because, Nick said something on his live. That's not my goal here. I'm not here to give you signals or ideas, but my goal is to just, actually, it's more to give you just ideas and things to think about, right? So this is something that I'm looking at. Euro yen really, really showing its teeth teeth here, sellers that is, holding the top of this range. Now, again, on the higher time frames, you got to be careful of the uptrend, because if that uptrend decides it just wants to continue, sellers, you better get out of the way. However, if sellers are able to hold this zone, if they're able to hold this sort of move that they're making today, I think that it has potential to sort of do one of these and make its way back down to the bottom of this range, or maybe just to the bottom of that longer term trend line that we were looking at on the higher time frames. So keep an eye on this. I think that there's some good setups here on euro yen. One that comes to mind is watching the break of maybe this level here and looking for some sort of tight retest. In fact, to me, what looks really good is something like this. Let's say we just get a little bit more push, a little bit more sell pressure here, just to show that this sort of has really been broken here. This momentum to the upside has been broken. And then looking for this move here, right? I think that there's some decent risk to reward looking at this sort of scenario right here. So you put some sort of stop that you're comfortable with. But I mean, if you were to trade this, if this were to go back to the range, I mean, like I said, there's 150 plus pips there to the downside should that move sort of happen. And that's just going off of, okay, on the higher time frames, it looks like we may be entering a range. We've got some sell pressure above the top here. And so that might be a play. Now, for those of you guys who are more regular to my stream, you might be saying, well, Nick, I thought you don't really like euro yen. And the reason that I personally do not love euro yen for trading is that right now, this may change in the future, by the way, euro yen, both of these economies to me are sort of weaker than some of the other ones that are out there. And for me, when I have a bias on a currency pair, it's because I like one against the other. I like the strength of the US dollar versus the weakness of the euro, in my opinion, based on my opinion of how the economies look and the outlook for the future. Right now, the euro is perceived as overall weak. We are getting some bullish numbers today. But again, there's also a really big move into the yen right now. So that's causing euro yen to move lower. If you're a bear on the euro, then this could be even a more attractive setup. But the idea here for me is I'm sort of bearish on both of these individual currencies. So I won't usually trade these. If I do trade them though, it would be in favor of a range, right? So if you're bearish on the euro and you're bearish on the yen, you would probably not expect one to dominate the other drastically, right? If you think both of these are sort of weak and they're not really going to do super well, then you would imagine that in a lot of cases you could see something like this where they're just both weak, so they're just both going up and down and not really going anywhere. So that's what I'm looking at on euro yen. And so when we come to the 1 hour chart, that's where I'm saying maybe there's this sort of trade setup for a short-term reversal just in favor of this range-bound play. Does that make sense on euro yen? Can I move on from there? Do me a favor and just comment yes if you want me to move on, if that looks good on euro yen, you guys. Yeah, cool. We got 556 people in here. Thank you guys very much for tuning in to today's stream. If you're new here, I do these Monday through Friday and we go through the markets together. I talk about trade setups. I talk about ideas and things that I'm looking at, and basically just looking at what looks interesting to me in the markets. All right. Somebody says Euro USD. We'll get there. Don't worry. We're headed there. Look at that, euro yen still starting to move bearish here. We're testing this spot for those guys watching this trade. Keep an eye on this zone. See if we can break that. That will be interesting to see what happens there. Okay, thank you guys very much for the feedback there. Let's move on. Okay, so we did pound yen, we did euro yen. Let's look at the euro dollar, and then we'll come back to some yen pairs in a moment. Keep an eye on that trade though. That looks pretty interesting on the good old euro yen. Okay, so Euro USD. This one is probably one of my most watched currency pairs this year and last year. Last year, I was super bullish on this. Last year, I was super bullish on the euro against the dollar because Europe seemed to be doing better with the vaccine rollout and growth looked a little bit more promising. But then we sort of shifted directions. The vaccine rollout in the United States has been arguably a lot better since about the start of the year, somewhere around there. So keep an eye on that right now. That seems to be one of the leading sort of concepts, right? And let me just quick recap for those of you guys who haven't been in my streams. Remember that a vaccine rollout, why is it important? I don't care about your political views. I'm not here to tell you mine or to give you any of that. I'm not really even a very political person. But the reason it matters from a economics and from a trading standpoint, you guys, is that it has a direct impact on GDP. If there are more people back out in the country that they're in, doing their thing, starting businesses, going to work, working their job, buying goods, selling goods, that is good for an economy, right? More vaccine rollouts, more back to normal means good for the economy. So when we look at these two currencies, the euro versus the US dollar, the trade for me is and has been sell the euro, buy the US dollar. The reason is vaccine rollout for the euro, perceived as poor, not so good, right? It's been lagging some of the other places. We're back in some shutdowns for some of the European countries out there. And then in the US, we've actually seen some pretty impressive progress, relatively speaking, and things are really growing in terms of GDP. So in my view right now, the US dollar is still a buy. I think that you've had a lot of shorts covering on the US dollar in the last several months, which has also helped sort of drive it up. But I still think that the trade is there. I still think that the US dollar is a preferred currency over the euro. Now, this is my opinion, you guys. I can be wrong about this, and please understand I have been wrong in the past. I'm not right all the time, but we've been catching some great moves, shorting against other things, shorting the euro against other things. And the GDP also in Europe has been, as we've seen, lagging in the most recent quarter. Now, that could change. Again, we got some numbers today. I think unemployment was a little bit better than expected in Europe. So arguably, GDP could be a little bit better than expected too, right? So this is what we're talking about when we talk about fundamentals, is looking at what's happening in the world and maybe trying to decipher where the trade setup is. For me, any sort of rally on the Euro USD is, for the time being, unless the data changes, a sell. So this gives me a sell bias on the euro and a bullish bias or a buy bias on the US dollar. Okay, so when the euro is rising against the US dollar, that to me looks more like opportunities to sell. Now you can clearly see, like, the first level that's going to come to mind is, of course, this 1.185. I thought, however, you guys, let me point out something that I was not right about before I sort of I gotta address this for those of you guys who have been here. Check this out. So I thought the Euro USD last week was going to hit 1.17. Look where we ended up hitting. We hit 1.17038. I was off by 4 pips with that idea. We were calling it back here. We're saying if this breaks, probably headed down to here. We got down by 4 pips and barely missed that target zone. So kind of a bummer. That happens though. It's just the annoying parts of trading sometimes is you can be almost right and not fully right. However, it doesn't matter, because I think that this pullback for me creates some opportunities. For those of you guys who are in our private group, I will probably be trading Euro USD this week. I might be watching this zone, and if I do take a trade, I will share that with members inside of the group. I'm waiting to see a few other things. I'm just going to read through the data myself today just before I take any trades. I like this level even more. 1.12 is really interesting to me. If we were to bounce up to that point, I would probably, unless, again, like I said, the data really changed or something really drastic happened, I'd probably still be looking to short at sort of a pullback to that area. So those are 2 levels that I'm watching. And I think one more thing to reiterate is I think that the euro dollar is probably still headed to 1.17. I think we still should see a move down to those points. And like I said, I can be wrong, so please don't think I'm some sort of know-it-all genius. I make mistakes. I make trades that are bad, just like everybody else. So again, what I'm saying is not I'm not a professional economist. I'm not some sort of wizard trader. I am just a dude who has been doing this for a while, and you can do it too. It's not like it's some sort of magical work, like I said. So don't think I'm some sort of all-knowing or super smart trader. Especially, and the reason I say that is because when I was a newer trader, I would wander into these streams and I'd hear somebody talking about this stuff and be like, wow, they must know what everything is going to do before it does it. And I do not. What I do in my trading is I basically say, okay, here's the facts, here's the stats that we have that line up that give me X or Y bias, and then I take a trade based on that. Let's say I did take a trade here. Let's say I look for a short here on the euro, and I say, hey, you know what? I want to risk 50 pips on this move. I think that price has a good chance of holding this level. And then let's say I do want to target that 1.17. So I think price is going to move back to that level that it teased me with last week. Well, if that happens, then excellent. I'll look like a genius and everybody like, oh yeah, Nick, you're a great trader or whatever, right? But the problem is that's not how everything goes. So sometimes price comes up into this level and I say, okay, I'm going to sell this thing. And then I just look like an idiot because price rallies up to the next zone. So, but the thing is, here's the point. Let's say price comes up to this point and there's two sort of scenarios here. Let's say it comes up to this point, but then buyers just get some fresh data or something comes out, or just there's just a total sentiment change and we see strong buying pressure. Scenario one is maybe I just get stopped out and I take a small loss, and that is what it is. Scenario B is what if price just drops like a rock and I'm right? In this case, I made good money, and in this case, I lost small, right? So it's not that I know what's going to happen. It's that I'm controlling my risk as best as possible. And again, I will say also just fully transparent, there are times where something like this happens. That happens sometimes to me as well. That's never fun, but it doesn't happen too often, fortunately. But the idea, you guys, is that when I win, the idea is to try and win big. And the idea is when I lose, just to try and stop out small. That's, for me, a key component to my trading strategy. So I just wanted to point that out. Like, as always, I just want to remind people that are newer to my streams, the people on the internet that are telling you all about trading, including myself, you should not just trust anybody blindly. Just because they say they're some sort of amazing trader, you should never just trust somebody blindly. You should always, always, always be skeptical and, you know, just do your own homework, do your own research before making any sort of decisions in terms of trading. All right, so euro dollar. So I do like this setup. Honestly, I do think that this has potential. I think that you know, as we rally here, I'll have to take a look at, like I said, against the numbers a little bit more before I take any trades myself. And if I do take a trade, I will share it inside of our private group. So keep that in mind for those of you guys who are watching the trades that I share inside of the private Discord. If you're looking to join the private Discord, Dave just shared a link. He just dropped it in the chat. I'm going to pin that message that he just dropped. You guys can click that if you want to join. There's a link there to join our private Discord, and all the information is there. So you get access to webinars, you get access to our chat rooms, all the trades that I share, as well as our other 2 analysts that we have hired from around the world. We got a guy in Germany, and we have another fellow friend of mine. His name is Frank. He's been trading alongside me for years now, and we're all 3 of us are sharing our concepts and ideas inside of the group. So stay tuned for that. Some of you guys might have seen me on Joe's Instagram live yesterday. That was a lot of fun for those of you who tuned in. Did anybody see that? Was anybody there with Joe and I? If you follow Joe, he just invited me onto his Instagram live, and we talked a little bit about trading, just talked about concepts and stuff. Joe and I have known each other for a while. He's a great guy, very, very experienced trader, and really cool person. So he's actually part of the A1 trading community now as well. He runs our webinars, and he's sort of like a coach inside of our community, and fantastic to have him as well. All right. So let's see what we can get into next. So I want to keep going with some of these more moving currencies. What about the Euro Aussie? I bet this one is moving today, right? Maybe not. I would have thought, what is the AUD USD? Is this moving? No, not really. Okay, maybe the AUD. Maybe I'm wrong. Is it the, let's just go look. Let's just go back. Let's go back to the currency heat map. You guys can find this anytime you want on the website, by the way. If you're not using my website, I've basically asked people from the community here on YouTube and on my Instagram and stuff. I've asked people like, what kind of tools would you like on the website? And I got a whole list of helpful tools. So if you guys want some helpful tools, let me show them off for just a second, you guys. So check this out. Under market analysis, you've got the currency heat map, which is what we're looking at. You've got Forex market hours. You can see what trading session we're in right now. So you can see right now we're in the US session and the European session. Probably a pretty good time to trade right now. And then you've got the position size calculator. So if you want to calculate calculate lot size. You can do that here. So check that out as well. And then you've got all of our articles and content being produced by our team here. You can read all of our latest concepts and ideas here as well. So tons of stuff. COT reports as well. You get retail sentiment. This is probably our most popular one. You can see what traders are up to. So you can think, okay, well, if I'm looking at AUD USD, for example, let's say I want to go look at what AUD USD is doing in terms of retail sentiment. Well, you can see about 58% of retail traders think that market's going lower. That might be valuable information to you if you want to trade with or against sort of what the opinion is there. Again, go read up on this. All of this is available for free on the website. So just go to a1trading.com, save that link, and tune in all the time. I see it's kind of cool. I can actually see when there's like a person on the website, a viewer on the website that comes back regularly, and I think that's really cool. I know some of you guys definitely use it on a regular basis. But anyways, I wanted to show you guys the currency heat map just because I wanted to see what else we could look at today. So New Zealand pairs are moving lower today. New Zealand is pretty weak, especially against the yen. Maybe we could take a look at that as well. The Aussie yen also pulling back a little bit, which I currently have a trade on. And then the pound yen, sort of the biggest the pound yen is probably the weakest currency pair on this list today, moving the most, down 0.78% on the day. So that's a pretty impressive little move there. Let's see what else we can look at. I do want to take a look. Is dollar yen doing anything? I think dollar yen is probably sort of flat, so that might not be the most interesting. But pound Swiss might be interesting. So let's look at this. CHF. Okay, yeah. I don't know what I was drawing there. That looks horrible. Pound Swiss. So this is another interesting currency pair. This is sort of a clash between two very different currencies. You've got the pound and the Swiss franc. This is more of a safe haven. People buy it when they're concerned about volatility in the world. Things are not sort of, things outlook is not necessarily good, right? People will buy this. And then during good times, people usually buy this. At least in recent years, this has sort of been a growth economy, growth currency that people have been buying. So we're seeing it pull back. So that means people are selling this and buying this. Maybe there's a little bit of concern in terms of risk sentiment, or maybe there's just a move against or out of the pound right now. So the pound seems weak across the board. I think, however, we're still in a flowing uptrend, and I think that probably more interested in pullbacks than anything else. For me, the biggest area of support that I see is going to have to be this 1.280 level, which is where we've sort of found support the last few times. We've got a lot of buying pressure here just below price, and this is one thing I want to point out. When you're in these strong uptrends, the cool thing is that you get these scenarios where, okay, if price is pulling back, look at all this trouble that sellers have to get through. This is why I like trading with the trend a lot. When you're in a uptrend like this, you've got all this pressure from buyers below price. So if you're selling this thing, you got to be like, oh man, I hope we can get through this. And then if we finally get through there, you're like, oh, I hope we can get through this. And then, you see what I mean? Like, it's a struggle compared to when you're in an uptrend and the momentum is behind you. All of these levels are like supporting you, right? They're saying like, okay, let's keep going here. Let's keep going here. So for me, a pullback on the pound Swiss looks really interesting, maybe to this 1.28. So I'm going to keep an eye on that one. I'm going to probably watch that one on my watch list to see if we can get a little bit more of a pullback there. Again, I don't want to rush to buy this thing either because, again, I don't like to buy the high either. And as we do pull back here, I think that it is probably due for a little bit of a healthy pullback, maybe to something like this level here. So keep an eye on that. I think that has some opportunity for the swing traders out there. I think that, this gives you a decent setup where you've got, if you were to put stops below, that's only risking like 75 pips to make a potential 250. If that move were to set up, I think that is probably not the worst scenario to look for going into the rest of the week, if not start of next week. So just for the swing traders out there. What about for the day traders? Well, for the day traders out there, if you think price is headed down there, if you think you want to trade sort of the move lower, it looks like selling momentum is in favor today. You can kind of see that For now, it does look like it's headed lower, and that's why I said I'm not going to rush to buy this thing. It's because I think it has potential to sort of do one of these things right here where it just moves down to a previous major level. A lot of times we see that. And so for the day traders out there, there might be potential. There's still 140 pips left on the table if price were to just make its move down to the bottom of this range. So keep an eye on that for those of you guys who like trading pound pairs. Keep an eye on that if you're a day trader as well, as we sort of break this structure to the upside. It looks like temporarily we may be headed lower. And for me, on the swing trade side of things, looking for the buys should we get a discount down below into major areas of demand. Okay, so that's what I'm looking at when it comes to pound Swiss. What do you guys think? Do you think pound Swiss on the daily chart, on the 1 hour chart, do you think it's going to head lower, or do you think this is just going to pull back and immediately find buyers? What do you guys think? Let me know in the comment section if you're watching later, or if you're here with me live in the chat, let me know in the chat box. What do you think? I'm interested just to see your thoughts. What are your views on the yields? Aussie, I think they're going to continue to rise. I think that those sort of things move very slowly, and it seems like yields are probably going to rise. Honestly, Aussie, for my portfolio balancing, I was doing some allocation stuff, and I was actually looking at buying some more bonds at some point. I actually don't have any in my portfolio, and I'd like to add some just for diversity's sake. As stocks rise quite a bit, I think I'd like to buy some bonds at some point, if the yield can pop a little bit higher, honestly. Sad, I already closed my position on Swiss pairs. Okay, lower probably. Carry on dropping. Okay, so people seem to think the same sort of thing as me right now. Yeah, gonna be watching this area for the sellers here. Watch this area to see if we can get through it. If that thing breaks, I think we probably head down to this, like I said, that 1.28. That'd be my view. Hafiz says, did you discuss gold today? I just joined. I actually have not, so maybe we can go to gold next. Let's do that for our friend Hafiz in the chat. All right, so gold in today's world, looking really interesting. What I found so interesting from gold was the fact that we dropped like a rock, and this thing looked so bearish, but we really held this double bottom beautifully. And I can't complain. The only position I have on gold right now is a long-term buy in my stock portfolio. I have like a gold ETF just as sort of a diversity thing, but or a diversification thing. But when I'm looking at gold now, it does look like we're actually seeing for the first time some signs of strength here that could be lasting. So let me not get ahead of myself, but what we've been talking about when we looked at gold in the last several weeks is we've been seeing just every rally get sold into, right? Lots of sell pressure as buyers try to make a move on gold, but then they end up getting sold into pretty hard. Well, that's what I was sort of expecting to see here. And this is a case where I can say I was short-term wrong. I didn't take any trade setups on it, but I did look at gold and say, hey, I think it's probably headed bearish, if anything, going, up to this point and now looking like it's breaking through what was this sort of downward trend line that we were looking at. So keep an eye on that. Let me make sure. Do I still have my internet? Okay, good. Cool. Yeah. I heard my MetaTrader losing connection, so I want to make sure that I'm not streaming to nobody. Can everybody still hear me? Just let me know in the chat. I want to make sure I've still got connection. But we're looking at gold for those of you who are with me. And the concept here is that I think we did break a pretty key level. And I'm going to say that I'm not going to try and call that this is the bottom of gold, but I will say it does have this sign, the early warning signs of a potential bigger reversal here on gold, okay? So the thing is, when it looks like this, when we get a double bottom that holds, fantastic. There's no question. This was a beautiful double bottom. Now we're starting to see the follow through that I really think is important. Okay, you guys can hear me? Thank you guys. You guys are the best. You guys got my back. Yeah. So what I think is interesting here, like I said, so basically the big idea is that this downtrend seems to no longer be in control, but it's not sort of like set in stone yet. I think we get a couple more pushes like this. I think these sort of trade setups are way more interesting, and in fact would be where I personally could see myself looking for gold trades. So I like to trade gold to the long side mostly just because over time it seems to go up as inflation over time pushes currencies down, gold tends to go up against it, right? Just sort of basic concept. It's not some sort of guarantee or every single time, but for a long time, the history of gold, it's gone up over time against fiat currencies. So when we look at this, watching for the break of some of these resistance points, remember when I said that when you're in a roaring uptrend, that support is everywhere, and that's why it's sort of hard for sellers to sort of try and fight that trend? Well, the same thing on the downside. We got to be fair here. As we see this market in a downtrend, right, we have lots of resistance overhead. So this is the barriers for buyers. If buyers are going to win over this market, they've got to push through levels like this. But I think that if we see those, there are trade setups along the way. So if you are a bull on gold, maybe fundamentally, like for me, I am sort of bullish on gold fundamentally. I think that over time, inflation seems to be on the rise, and that could be a good thing for gold, right? Inflation is bullish for gold because as currencies lose value, the idea is gold maintains its value, right? That's the concept, at least. So as we look at this, I think for the buyers out there on gold, I'm waiting to see a break above this previous high. This consolidation zone was sort of a pretty big spot for sellers. So if we were to see something like this, I like that setup a lot. Waiting for confirmation, waiting for a break above this zone. So that's my thoughts on gold for the time being. What about for the day traders out there? For the day traders, honestly, I think it's probably about the same. There was maybe some sort of trade here that you could have been looking for, the break and retest of this zone, although we're a little bit late to talk about that. But I think those are some levels to watch for on gold for this week is, if we can bust through this level here, that's probably my favorite setup on gold right now. Is looking to just keep going with it, but I got to see that momentum start to pick up, and more importantly, hold. Because you guys, yes, we have made a move here on gold, but gold is one of those things, you guys, it can be crazy and just drop back the other direction. So I don't want to sort of assume that gold is just absolutely headed to the moon just because we broke through one level of resistance here, right? We've got a lot to overcome, okay? Hopefully that helps. Ozzy says, personally, I think the economic number aren't really doing much to the dollar, which is a shame. Hopefully yields will rise so we can have a true understanding of the U.S. economy. Yeah, I think yields rising, I think it will probably continue. We'll see if I'm right about that, but my opinion is that yields will continue to rise, and at some point I'd like to buy some bonds. Dollar CAD? Yeah, let's look at dollar CAD. What's dollar CAD up to today? Dollar CAD. This one's a messy chart right now. Honestly, I don't have too much of an interest in this. It actually seems like it's really started to chop out because sort of both currencies are sort of bullish. I'm bullish on the US dollar, but I'm also bullish on the CAD. Check this out. I want to show you guys, if you have any interest, for anybody who just commented or has any interest in the Canadian currencies, I think you should read this article that Frank put out on the website. We don't put out like ginormous, boring articles. It's just like our thoughts, our trade setups, or our ideas. So if you want to read Is the Canadian Dollar a Buy by Frank, you can check that on the website. Again, go to a1trading.com. It's on the front page. Click and read that. I think it's a good read for those of you guys who have an interest in trading the Canadian dollar. Basically, Frank just goes over the fundamentals and technicals and some of the COT reports / sentiment analysis. So if that sounds helpful to you, anybody who's in a Canadian dollar trade right now, highly encourage you to go read that. Yeah. So with that said, guys, I think I'm going to wrap up the stream. Thank you so much for being here with me. I do appreciate everyone who shows up and hangs out and leaves your feedback. It helps me a lot just to know that, the comments that I receive and the chats that I see, people seem to be kind of, enjoying the streams and getting something out of it. And I get a lot out of it as well. Of course, I make a little bit of money from YouTube, but I also get a chance to share my thoughts with other people and see some of the feedback and to sort of explain it to other people helps me to understand what it is I'm looking for in markets. So again, just to recap what we did today, we went through some of the yen pairs. We talked about the dollar a good bit, and we talked about some of the most moving yen pairs, especially like pound yen. We can go back and you can go back in the stream if you want, and this will also be uploaded after, so you can go back at your own pace and see what we talked about today if you needed help. Thank you so much for being here, you guys. Before I go, I do want to remind you, if you're looking to join our community, we have a Discord with many, many members that are serious and down-to-earth traders. That's sort of what we are all about. And we have a full staff and people that are working full-time to offer that community to traders who are looking for it. Now, if you have any interest in that, you get to see all the trades that I take. Anything I take, if I take a trade, an alert goes out to everybody in the group, as well as our two other analysts, Frank and Patrick. And then we also do live webinars, and there's chat rooms, and there's sort of downloadable strategy material and all of that sort of stuff. If that sounds helpful to you, then make sure to check out the link down below in the description. And there's a promo code for you guys here in the live. You get a discount for being here with me. That's sort of like a special discount to people who tune into the live. So check out YT Live is the promo code, and click that link down below in the description if you have any interest in joining our community. Try it for a month, see if it's a fit, and I am very confident that you'll get more than what you pay out of it. Thank you so much, guys. We'll see you back next time. What's up, you guys? I'm so excited to announce that TradingView is going to be sponsoring our content here on YouTube. TradingView.com offers a wide range of trading software and charting tools, and they are my #1 favorite place for everything charts. I've been using them for myself for years, so it's very easy for me to get behind TradingView.com. On top of all of their fantastic charting software, they also have a vibrant community of traders with millions of active users. You can join in on some of the conversations going on there, as well as access some of the research and ideas being shared by fellow members. Whether you use Bollinger Bands, using moving averages, or pattern trading, whatever you do, TradingView has so many different tools, and even the ability to program your own custom tools right inside of their platform. One of my favorite things about TradingView personally is that I can take my laptop anywhere I want. I can access my TradingView.com account, and then I can log into it from my phone or a different computer and still have all of my charts loaded, which is fantastic and super convenient for being in different places like myself, where I have different charts that I am looking at. Recently, some of the nice people over at TradingView set me up with a pro version of their platform, and it is fantastic. I encourage you though, if you haven't already signed up for a TradingView account, sign up for one for free. There's a link down below in the description to try it out. And hey, if you really like it, try out their pro version. They're supporting the content that you guys see here and making it all possible. So a big shout out to TradingView, and go check them out if you haven't already.